Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Shanahan. I'm the author of Spiritual Adrenaline, a lifestyle plan to strengthen and nourish your recovery. It's published by Central Recovery Press in January 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to this broadcast talking about how to use nutrition to boost your immune system. I was supposed to be coming to you live, however, I have a family commitment that came up, and these are crazy times. I didn't want to say no, and so I decided to record this and put it out there. If you have any questions about anything I share on the broadcast, feel free to send me that question. I will respond to every question I get, and I try to do that. I've been trying to do that for the last couple of years, I promise you. And I'll make sure to look at the comments on the broadcast tomorrow morning. And also, by the way, on Tuesday we went live. There was like 5 people who watched the live broadcast on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. about fermented foods. There's a lot of great information on the broadcast. And so by now, I just looked, or before I began this, 50,000 people have actually watched that broadcast. It's really critical, talking about fermented foods and fruits and trying to combine foods that have digestive enzymes that can benefit you during these crazy days. And also not just through these crazy days with the coronavirus, but as part of an overall lifestyle moving into the future that will keep your body primed and healthy. So tonight, I just want to talk about some general ideas on how to use nutrition, integrate different aspects of nutrition to help your body be primed, whether it's for workouts at the gym, whether it's for stress at the office, whether it's for stress in your personal life. And I'm sure a lot of you who are maybe home like me while helping family out during these times can relate to that. But whatever it is, whatever challenge life throws at you, you can handle it better when you're, really giving your body the nutrients it needs, and not like getting your blood sugar high and low and crashing and getting, up with caffeines and refined sugars, but trying to be stable and just be able to, take what comes at you and deal with it as best you can. And so I just wanted to say, like, if you're looking to eat healthy, now is the time, because the people that are hoarding, they're not hoarding broccoli, and they're not hoarding asparagus, and they're not hoarding cauliflower, and they're not hoarding garlic. They're hoarding the processed foods. If you notice, if you go to your supermarket, most of the enzyme-rich foods, which I'll be talking about, will be on the outside of the supermarket, in the fruit area and the vegetable area. They're going to the processed foods. They're going to the chips, and they're going to the frozen foods and the canned goods. And so what I'm trying to say to you is that if you're looking to get fresh food with enzymes, right now you're in luck, and you should be able to find them. In my book, and I speak about this at length, and I'm going to go through the bad news first, and then we'll get to all the other good news. The reality is, for people in addiction recovery, what we're eating is incredibly important. People in addiction recovery have higher, by percentage of population, amounts of type 2 diabetes, hypoglycemia, cardiovascular heart disease, lung pulmonary disease. I smoked for 24 years, so I can relate to how difficult that addiction is and the impact it takes on your body, and I still feel it 9 years into my sobriety and 7 years after I haven't had a cigarette. So we come into recovery with a lot of pre-existing conditions and also a lot of stress on our organs, which people who, they may not identify in recovery, but they may have done the same things. They may not recognize the fact that they've put their internal organs in their body under a lot of stress over the years, and that it's important to really address those issues. And I mentioned smoking. I, again, smoked for 24 years. And one of the really disturbing statistics from the Mayo Clinic, the Nicotine Reduction Project, and a very well regarded institution, is that 52% of people in addiction recovery actually die of some smoking related illness that was caused by either their smoking in active addiction or continuing to smoke in active recovery. So it's really critical to address these issues, and for us as members of the recovery community to really give our body the nutrients it needs to succeed during these challenging days in life. And what I try and avoid, and in the book I write about this at length, is in my early recovery, I put on substantial weight. I drank a lot of coffee, highly caffeinated beverages almost all day long. I ate lots of junky, kind of like refined sugary foods, snacks, and those kinds of things. And so what I realized now was that my blood sugar was constantly spiking and then dropping and spiking and dropping. And I was using caffeine and nicotine to try and get that upper, that feeling that I would get from other substances back in active addiction. And so I actually started smoking more early on than I had an active addiction. And so what I was doing was, in a way, not exactly and not to the extent of being an active addiction, but I was, trying to get the uppers and spiking my blood sugar to really feel the rush, and then crashing down and then trying to replicate it again. And it's kind of like it puts your body in chaos. It's a chaotic thing to do. And so the reality is, by what we're going to talk about just in a minute, is trying to eat, for example, complex carbs that allow your body to have stable energy sources from your blood sugar, not spike and come back down, using healthy fats for the same reasons, and then looking to fruits and vegetables for antioxidants, polyphenols, flavonoids, and all the other substances that will help your body not only heal from any prior abuse during active addiction, but also to prime it for dealing with the stressors in life. And I just wanted to touch on this. There's a whole chapter in my book that speaks to the issue of the history of the 12 steps and addiction recovery and exercise and nutrition. And one of the things that's really important is to understand, for whatever the reason we don't hear a lot about it, some folks will say that exercise and nutrition are outside issues and they should not be addressed in the context of a 12-step plan. Well, I disagree. And I was able to do research at AA World Headquarters in New York City and the Research Library and some other institutions. And I was able to find, going back to the founding days of AA, writings and other kinds of historical documents that confirm that early on, Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob, Dr. Duncan Silkworth all believed that there was a linkage between what we were eating, what we're drinking, and our ability to stay sober. And I won't go into the long story. There's a whole chapter on it if you read my book. But one really important thing to understand is that Bill W., working with Dr. Silkworth, identified the sister foods to alcohol. There's 6 of them. So I'm going to give them to you now. Refined sugar, soda, white bread, white rice, pasta, potatoes, and French fries. Again, there's an entire chapter in the book, but I just ask you to ask yourself, are these things that you go to? Well, for me, the answer is yes. And I went to extensively, both in active addiction, when I was trying to not drink or not trying to do cocaine, but also in early recovery, and I abused them. If there was a basket of bread on the table and I was eating with somebody, I would finish that basket and look for more. If it was like at Denny's all-you-can-eat French fries, I would eat one plate, another plate, another plate. And so the point is, I wasn't able to control the carbs in the same way I wasn't able to have just one beer. And so these are the foods that Dr. Silkworth and Bill W. identified as the sister foods to alcohol. Most of them are refined sugars or not a complex carb. And so the real thrust of this video and my book is that we need to find sustainable energy sources that don't peak and then drop our blood sugar like up and down like a roller coaster, but rather give us the consistent energy we need to get through the day, again, without that peak and valley like a roller coaster. And the reason is that causes the body stress. That causes the body to protect itself from the stress by inflammation and other kinds of natural ways, to protect itself. And so we want to reduce that. And instead of using sugars, refined sugars, and junk carbs, we'll call them, for energy sources, we want to look to complex carbs. Quinoa, steel-cut oats, or just regular oats. If you can't get steel-cut, that's fine. Beans. Beans are a wonderful source of energy. Pinto beans, kidney beans, the list goes on and on. In my book, there's a section called Recovery Superfoods, and I go through almost all the different types of beans that are highly recommended as energy sources. And you can look through them and see what you like and what you don't like and what they have and what they don't have, and choose what's right for you. And this is only a partial list. But one of the other things that each of these energy sources has is fiber. Fiber is of critical import as well. Fiber helps you stabilize your blood sugar. It helps with your bowel health. Right now, also, I know it's weird to be talking about bowel health, but at these times when we're talking about infections and cleanliness and sanitation and being sanitary, it's great to move food through your body as quickly as possible, and fiber will help you do that. This way, you're not having, if you're eating processed foods or junky foods, they won't sit in your body overnight or for a day or two or more. Sometimes it's a big issue for people in active addiction that they won't have a bowel movement for days and days and days. So this helps keeps you regular and it keeps you healthy. And cholesterol, it'll help lower your cholesterol, and that should be a goal of everybody, not just in recovery, but in life. And so if you're working in these complex carbs, my favorite, by the way, which is not mentioned in that list, are sweet potatoes. I eat them every day. I eat them raw. I eat them as sweet potato pancakes. There's a whole bunch of recipes in my book for sweet potato. So you have a lot of choices. It's not like you can only eat one thing for the rest of your life. And there's a whole list of them that you can choose from, again, in Spiritual Adrenaline. So check it out if this sounds like something you want to give a try to. The other energy source, which can replace the refined sugars and the sister foods to alcohol, as Bill W. called them, is healthy fats. Healthy fats can come from any number of sources. The sources that I recommend are, let's just take fish first, salmon, sardines. And by the way, no one's hoarding sardines, I guarantee you that. And if you think that sardines can't be prepared to be delicious, go to Portugal, where it's a delicacy, and they have amazing recipes for sardines. I didn't think it was possible, but just Google Portugal sardines recipes, and you're going to come up with a whole host of them. And I can guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say guarantee you because these are crazy days, but you'll be able to find sardines at your local supermarket. The other food that's just like a miracle food every day for me, every day for lots of folks that I know that are really in tune with their health, avocado is a big one. It's got the healthy fats. It's got it's a powerhouse of energy providing substances that will get you through the day, again, without spiking your blood sugar. Olive oil is another one. Coconut oil, I highly recommend. You can check out which one you like, which one's better for you and your health, and just integrate them into so many of the foods that you're eating. You can cook with coconut oil. I actually cook in the morning my eggs, and I do like an all vegetable omelet almost every morning with coconut oil, and I happen to like the taste. You can also make ice cream replacements with coconut oil. I think there's a recipe in my book. If not, there's lots of them online on innovative ways to use coconut oil as well. One last big area when it comes to the healthy fats is nuts. You can eat almost any nut and get almost any nut a large amount of fat. The one nut that I kind of tell people to stay away from are cashews, and that's because they have so much of the fat we want to try and avoid. So I won't get into the details on that. It's in my book. I have a list of the various nuts, the beans, and the seeds that can benefit you. I didn't mention sunflower seeds. It's popping into my head because this is something that's something that I eat all the time. It's a great energy source, and you can put it into your yogurt. You can put it into so many things. And the other seed that's coming to mind is flaxseed. There is a recipe in the book for flaxseed muffins. We have like macadamia nuts in that recipe. I'm not sure, but the point is with the flaxseed muffins, if you want to make a tasty treat that you can eat and you have to worry about like the negatives that we were talking about, the refined sugars and the sister foods to alcohol, you can make a flaxseed muffin using natural sweeteners, nuts, raisins, other kinds of berries, and I'm telling you, it's out of this world. So check out the recipe that's in my book, or go online. Just check out other ones that may benefit you. So those are all healthy foods that will allow you to have sustainable energy. And by the way, all of them, the hoarders won't be hoarding. So you should be able to get at your supermarket right now, and will help you get through this really stressful time and give you the energy, your body, the energy in the long term to really sustain the kind of output that's going to be required as we get through this and then recover and then move on to the regular stressors in life. And yesterday when I spoke about fermented foods, I mentioned a bunch of different fruits. I'm going to mention them again because they're really important. We talked about the complex carbs for sustainable energy. Then we talked about the healthy fats, again, for sustainable energy. So fruits that are high in digestive enzymes, I'm not going to go into which enzymes. I'm not going to go into the whole explanation. This would be a 3-hour video. In the book, Recovery Superfoods chapter gives you everything you need to know. The fruit, the seed, whatever it is, the benefits, and the substances you're going to find, the major substances you'll find in them that will enable you to, again, prime your bodies. So the fruits that I recommend that are highest in digestive enzymes are the following. And tell me, everyone likes these. Pineapple, papaya, mango, bananas. Avocado is a fruit, but I wouldn't think of it that way, but I included it on the list as well. So if you can work in the complex carbs I mentioned earlier, the healthy fat sources that I mentioned earlier, and some of these fruits, you will have, get integrated into your diet, into however many meals you're eating in one day, all the things that your body really needs to break down the proteins, to break down the carbs, and to break down the fats and utilize them for energy. If you're taking antidepressants, if you're taking other kinds of medication for type 2 diabetes or other health illnesses, you may want to think about incorporating some of the fermented foods that I talked about at length on Tuesday. You can go back and watch that video. There's a whole host of them. Some of them you may have heard of, some of you may not have heard of, but they will help you optimize your gut microbiota. That means the bacteria that break down the food when you eat them in your gut, so that you're getting the maximum nutritional benefit from the foods you're eating. And there's a book called Drug Muggers, and I write about it in my book, that speaks to the issue of how, listen, I'm not saying medications aren't necessary. They are if they're prescribed by a doctor, but the reality is they have side effects and they impact nutrition absorption in our bodies. And so by eating some of the fermented foods or drinking them, for example, kefir, which is something that I drink on an almost daily basis, you'll enable your bodies to act optimally, to really optimize the gut microbiota so you can break down the foods you're eating and get the maximum benefits. Otherwise, you may find that a lot of the nutrients are going through you, especially if you're eating a lot of processed foods in addition to taking prescribed medications. And so we talked about complex carbs, replacing refined sugars and unhealthy energy sources. We talked about healthy fats that can be used, again, to stabilize your energy source, stabilize your blood sugar, and give you energy. Fiber-rich foods. On top of that, we talked about fruits that have high amounts of digestive enzymes in them, and then mixing them in with fermented foods. I won't go through the whole list. I mentioned kefir, yogurt, kimchi, miso. There's a whole host of them. Sauerkraut, for example, that you can also integrate into your diet that will help you maximize the gut microbiota. And here's the final area that I think is really important and oftentimes overlooked when we're talking about eating healthy. Spices. Spices are medicinal. They've been medicinal for years. Eastern philosophy knows that. Folks in India, Pakistan, that entire portion of the world into the Middle East have known this for years. And so these aren't necessarily spices you never heard of. They're spices you can integrate every day. And I use garlic on this list, and it's not a spice, I get that. But I use it as a spice because I don't like to eat it necessarily raw as a clove. So I include it on this list. I also include onions. I realize that's not specifically a spice, but I also use that as a spice and consider it a spice because I put it onto other foods. But these are foods that are chock full of substances. If you go to pages 111 to 120 in my book, I go through each of them and I go through the substances they contain and explain why these are superfoods that will enable your body to optimize optimize its whatever the organ's functions are and give you sustainable energy to fight off infection and disease. Garlic, critical. Onions, critical. Ginger, it can be an unbelievably helpful spice. I eat it on an almost daily basis. I make my own ginger ale, and I think in the book there's actually a recipe for you if you're interested in making your own ginger ale. Cinnamon is another one, which is amazing and full of all kinds of medicinal properties. And then the last one, which I'm not a big fan of, and you've probably heard this before, apple cider vinegar. If you're trying to fight off infection and bacteria, I would use it to gargle as opposed to consume it because I think it tastes terrible. I'm being honest, but if you go online, you're going to see a lot of people talking about the virtues of it. If you're concerned, like especially with something that's in the air now and not getting something in your throat that could cause you some illness, you may want to gargle with apple cider vinegar. It can really help you out and help give you some peace of mind that by the time you get home from work, you don't have to worry about have something in your throat that's going to cause you discomfort or illness. And then the final thing I wanted to say tonight, again, we talked about the complex and replacing refined sugars with complex carbs, healthy fats, right? Fruits with all kinds of digestive enzymes in them, integrating fermented foods, and what I call in my book recovery super spices. If you look at each of these categories and integrate at least a few on a daily basis, I can guarantee I can't guarantee you're not going to get sick, and I can't guarantee you're not going to catch a cold or whatever. But I can tell you this, you're going to optimize your body's systems, including your immune system, and a healthier body is a stronger body that can best fight off any kind of infections and other illnesses. So you're priming your body to operate maximally. And if you combine that with safety measures to try and avoid, obviously, picking things up in the easy way, I think you're ahead of the game. So the final area I wanted to cover tonight is in the book, because this book is written specifically for people in addiction recovery, specifically. There's an entire section that goes to liver disease, cardiovascular disease, pulmonary disease, disease of your pancreas, and kidney disease. By the way, and also for smokers. Going through the foods and an explanation of why each of these foods can be beneficial to you if you have compromised liver function or liver disease. If you were a smoker like me for 24 years, like one of the foods that's considered a miracle food in the context of asthma treatment and lung disease is watercress, and I explain why in the book. And so I always make sure to have watercress in part of my salad when I'm eating it because I have that history as a smoker. And so by taking into account your medical history and whatever your situation is, either active addiction or in recovery, you're better able to eat in a way that addresses your body's specific needs. What someone's going to eat if they have a type 2 diabetes may not be the same as what they're going to eat if they have a disease of the pancreas. Although they can be related, they may be different. And also, by the way, the type of exercise someone's going to do if they have cardiovascular disease is very, very different than what someone would do if they have mild liver disease. But what you're eating can impact that organ health, especially if you're trying to take the stress off the organ, reduce the inflammation levels, and take into account the years of abuse from active addiction and maybe even an unhealthy recovery lifestyle. So I hope you found that helpful. I'm sorry I'm not here live, but these are crazy days, and I've got some, like I mentioned earlier, some personal things I want to take care of this evening and early tomorrow. So you can check out my book. It's available on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble. And if you have any questions about what you heard here tonight, or any questions about what I talked about on Tuesday on our video regarding fermented foods, reach out to me. You can contact me on Facebook. You can contact me on Instagram. You can contact me at our website, spiritualadrenaline.com, or you can contact me on our YouTube channel. And by the way, on our YouTube channel, There's over 200 free videos that you can check out, and just watch those that seem appealing to you or address an issue that's important to you. So again, Spiritual Adrenaline, that's what it looks like. I hope you consider the book, and I hope you got something out of this video as well. I wish you and your family all the best and good health and safety.